and welcome to lesson number 4 of a single reed learner's guide to the bassoon. Today we're going to talk a little bit about care and maintenance of the bassoon to make sure that it's in its best possible shape and playing with a beautiful, healthy sound. A few of the supplies that you'll need for your normal day-by-day maintenance are bassoon swabs. Sometimes bassoons come with just one, or sometimes they come with a smaller one and a larger one for the different parts of the bassoon. We'll talk more about swabbing in just a bit. You will need a vocal brush, so a wire with a small brush on the end, but do not use a trombone slide brush. They are too big for your vocal. You need a specific vocal brush. I've attached pictures in your lesson. And you can use that to clean your vocal anywhere between weekly and monthly. You need a little bit of cork grease. Just sometimes. Most bassoons have cork on the end of the vocal, almost all. So you can use a little bit of cork grease to take care of that cork on the end of the vocal, but do not use cork grease on thread wrapped tenons. Thread wrapped tenons will get gunky and gross with cork grease. If your bassoon does happen to have cork on the tenons that attach the body parts, you can use cork grease on those. You should use cork grease on any corks throughout the bassoon, but not on thread wrapped tenons. You will need a soft cloth or polishing rag. This can help to wipe off any moisture, fingerprints, or hand oils from your instrument to keep it in its best shape. Once you become a more advanced player, you'll need some reed adjustment pliers, but make sure that you are comfortable doing that and you've asked a teacher for help before you try any reed adjustments with pliers. The biggest thing is if you're going to buy reed adjustment pliers, make sure that they are smooth on the inside and they don't have any teeth or grooves on the inside of the pliers where you're grabbing things. So the first thing you want to do when you take your bassoon apart is to swab the wing joint and the boot joint. So we'll start with the wing joint. I'm going to take my swab. I use a silk swab. Make sure there aren't any brushes or anything else in there. And before you send it through your bassoon, make sure that there's no bunches in the material so that it doesn't get stuck. So we will send this through here. Now usually I would swab from the large end to the small end, but my bassoon swab doesn't want to go through that way, so we'll go like this. I pull the swab gently through. If you ever feel any resistance, go ahead and back it out and try again. If your swab does not want to come through, don't force it. You can get the swab stuck and then do some damage to your bassoon. So I've swabbed back and forth a couple of times. I'm going to pull it out the same way I put it through, and you can do that the other way too. My bassoon has a different swab for the boot joint, so we'll go ahead and thread that through here. Got the weighted end going in the larger hole first. Drop it down there, and then it has a curve that it has to go through in the bottom, so we'll feed that through that curve and coax it to come out the other side. There we go. We pull it gently through, making sure there are no bunches or knots in the swab at all. From the large end to the small end, collecting all the moisture that's in there. Now we don't typically swab the bass joint, and that is because the wing joint and the boot joint are lined properly and are meant to deal with that moisture, but the bass joint does not. Because the air comes down through this way and up this way, most of the moisture will stay in the wing joint and the bass joint. We don't want any moisture to end up in the bass joint. That's also why when we are not playing our bassoon, it's best to leave your bassoon in a bassoon stand and not lay your bassoon down. That allows the moisture to go all the way around to the bass joint, which we do want to avoid. Now we have talked about this before, but make sure that you are always soaking your reed in clean water. We don't want to reuse the water between practice sessions or band rehearsals, and we don't want to soak the reed in our mouths because that just won't get the reed wet enough to vibrate properly. Again, always store your reed in a vented case to prevent mold and to make sure that your reeds last as long as possible. Wipe any fingerprints, hand oils, or water from the keywork. That'll help them to function as well as possible for as long as possible. And then you want to check this whisper key pad for moisture. Remember, your air is going in through the vocal down to the top of this wing joint, and this whisper key pad could collect some moisture. So if there's some moisture on there, just gently dab it off, and that'll keep that whisper pad doing its best work for as long as possible. Now we will talk about weekly bassoon maintenance. Every week you want to inspect all of your reeds for cracks, mold, or poor response. We'll talk about crowing later, and that's where you can check for that poor response in the reed. You want to have about 2 to 3 reeds that you're rotating between. Giving your reeds a break between each practice session will actually help them to last longer, as long as you are storing them properly in that vented reed case. You always want to check your seat strap and your crutch screws if you have those for tightness, week by week, just to make sure everything's in working order. Week by week, you can also adjust your reed wires if you have learned how to do that. If not, if you notice any issues with the gap in your reed being too wide or too narrow, the sound is too bright or too dark, ask your teacher for help with adjusting your reed. Now we will talk about monthly bassoon maintenance. Every month or more often, you would like to clean your vocal with a vocal brush and dish soap. So you don't want to use hot water, just mildly warm water, mild dish soap. Run the water and the soap through, run your vocal brush through gently, and then make sure to rinse it out, and that'll keep your vocal in tip-top shape. Every month you'll check your cork on the vocal and the threaded or corked tenons between the body joints to make sure that they're fitting properly. If not, talk to a teacher or a repair technician for help. You'll check your instrument every month or so for loose screws. That would be if you're looking at a piece of your bassoon. Along each of these long bars, there's usually screws in each end or in one of the ends. If those seem to be poking out more than normal, you can gently tighten those, or you can ask a teacher for help. You never want to tighten screws all the way down, because that can affect how the keys themselves function if they're too tight. So just enough so that they're snug and not about to fall out. You can inspect every month your pads for any signs of leaks or stickiness. You can get some pad paper if you feel some stickiness in your pads, and just kind of tap some of that pad paper between your key or between the pad and the instrument. If you notice any damage to any of the pads, so those are the white bits underneath the keys that close onto the holes, talk to a teacher or repair technician for help. Make sure that month by month you're fully allowing your reed case and your reeds to all dry out. Replace any reeds that aren't responding well or are damaged or moldy. And if you want to be really good to your bassoon, you can lightly vacuum out any dust or debris within the case. Those are some daily, weekly, and monthly bassoon maintenance and care tips. For lesson number 4, go ahead and open up the lesson number 4 worksheet. You'll turn that in. That worksheet just wants you to go through the list of maintenance techniques and label whether that's something you should do daily, weekly, or monthly. In part 1, you've learned a lot about the bassoon itself. Continue on to lesson 5, which is the first lesson of part 2, and you'll start getting to make some sounds on your bassoon. Very exciting. We'll see you there.